The elevator hummed softly as it ascended, each floor number lighting up like a countdown to confrontation. Elena stood perfectly still, her reflection in the mirrored walls almost unrecognizable. Gone was the timid girl who once fled this building in tears. In her place stood a woman calm, elegant, and unshakable. When the doors slid open, a rush of familiar scent, amber wood and lilies, washed over her. The same scent her mother loved. For a moment her chest tightened, and she had to remind herself to breathe. She stepped out, her heels clicking against the marble floor of the private hallway. At the end stood the penthouse door she once called home. It gleamed under the golden light, the same door she'd been forced to leave behind 8 years ago. Her fingers brushed against the nameplate, Rowan Residence. The irony made her lips twitch. They still used her family's name. Taking a slow breath, Elena pressed the doorbell. It didn't take long for someone to answer. The door swung open, and there she was, Vanessa Rowan. Her cousin stood there in a silk robe and diamond earrings, holding a glass of champagne like she'd been born to own the place. Her glossy lips parted, but not in surprise, only in irritation. "Oh, you." Vanessa's tone could have cut glass. "Who told you to come here?" Elena simply met her gaze, unflinching. Vanessa's eyes darted over her outfit, black tailored coat, designer handbag, sleek hair tied neatly back. There was no trace of the girl who once cried on the sidewalk. But Vanessa didn't notice that. She saw only an intruder. Behind her, voices murmured. A man's laughter. A woman humming. The sound of glasses clinking. It seemed the Rowans were hosting a small gathering, right there in her home. "Well," Vanessa said loudly, stepping into the hall, "if it isn't the family ghost, what brings you crawling back?" Elena remained silent. She took one step forward. Vanessa's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? Did I say you could come in?" From the living room, Uncle Harold's voice boomed. "Who's at the door, Vanessa?" "It's Elena," Vanessa called out dramatically. "She just showed up. Like mold. Keeps coming back no matter how much you scrub." Laughter erupted from inside, the kind that burns. Elena's hands curled at her sides. Not from anger, she was far beyond that, but from restraint. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times, but hearing those words, that mocking tone, still pierced deeper than she wanted to admit. Her mother used to say mold grows where warmth is lost. Maybe Vanessa was right. She was mold, and she was about to reclaim the warmth they'd stolen. Vanessa folded her arms, savoring the attention. "You must really love humiliation, cousin. First you get kicked out, and now you come back uninvited. How pathetic." Elena's voice, when it came, was low and came, was low and even. "I didn't come to argue." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Then what, to beg?" "Please, Elena, don't embarrass yourself again. You have no place here. This is our home now." Elena looked past her, into the living room, the walls, the piano, the chandelier, all hers once, and then her eyes landed on the family portrait above the fireplace. Her parents' faces had been removed, literally. Their photograph cropped out and replaced with Harold's family. Something inside her went cold. So cold that when she spoke again, her words carried the quiet weight of finality. "Not anymore." Vanessa blinked. "What did you just say?" Elena's calm gaze didn't waver. "I said, this isn't your home anymore." Vanessa's laughter was instant and cruel. "Oh, really? And who's going to tell us that?" Elena didn't reply. Instead, the soft chime of the elevator echoed again. 3 uniformed security guards stepped out, walking briskly toward the penthouse. Vanessa turned, smirking. "Perfect timing," she said loudly. "Throw her out. She's trespassing." But when the guards stopped, they didn't look at Vanessa. They looked at Elena. "Miss Rowan," one said respectfully, "do you want us to escort them out now?" The entire room fell silent. Vanessa blinked, confused. What did he just call you?" Elena's expression didn't change. "Miss Rowan," she repeated softly, almost to herself. "Yes, that's right." Then she looked straight at the guards. "Start with her." Vanessa's smirk crumbled. "This is some kind of joke." She turned to the living room. "Dad, tell them who owns this place." But Harold was already standing, face pale. His eyes darted to Elena's hand, the folder she'd been holding since she arrived. He knew that folder. He'd seen enough legal documents in his life to recognize an ownership deed. "Elena," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "What have you done?" She stepped forward, handing him the papers. "Something I should have done a long time ago." Harold's fingers shook as he flipped through the pages. The official stamps, the signatures, the transfer seal, all real. The Penthouse had been legally purchased 3 weeks ago by Rowan Innovations, the company Harold had mocked as some startup. And now the new owner was standing in front of him. "Elena Rowan," she said simply, "CEO." Vanessa stumbled back. "Oh, no, you're lying. This isn't possible." Elena gave a faint smile. "Believe what you want, but security takes orders from ownership, and I'm the only one who belongs here." The guard stepped forward. "Ma'am," one said to Vanessa, "you'll need to leave the premises." Vanessa screamed, "This is my house!" Elena didn't even blink. "Correction," she said quietly. It was. The argument, the shouting, the threats, all blurred together as Vanessa and Harold were escorted out. The hallway echoed with their protests until the elevator doors closed behind them. And then, silence. Elena exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale that feels like years of weight leaving your lungs. She turned toward the vast living room. The same piano where her mother once played stood in the corner, collecting dust. The same window she used to sit by as a girl still looked out over the glowing skyline. She walked across the room, her fingers brushing over the cold surface of the grand piano, and whispered, "I'm home." The city outside glowed brighter as if answering her. For the first time in 8 years, the Penthouse belonged to the right Rowan again. The city shimmered through the penthouse windows, its golden lights painting moving patterns across the marble floor. Elena stood in the middle of the living room, her living room now, and felt the past pressing in from every corner. The silence was heavy, almost sacred. She let it wrap around her, breathing in the faint scent of the old furniture, the echo of memories that refused to fade. Every inch of this place held a piece of her childhood, the corner where her mother taught her to dance, the balcony where her father used to read her bedtime stories, the wall where her family portrait once hung before it was ripped down. Now that wall was bare, and for the first time Elena liked it that way. She walked to the piano, gently tracing its edge. Her reflection rippled across the glossy surface. "They took everything," she thought, "but they never took my name." Her mind drifted back to that night 8 years ago, the night her world collapsed, the night she lost everything. It had rained that evening, the kind of rain that drowns cities and dreams alike. Elena remembered standing in this very penthouse, clutching the letter the lawyer had handed her, temporary guardianship transferred to Harold Rowan until further notice. She was only 19, too young to understand what those words really meant. She thought it was just a formality. She trusted her uncle, until she saw the smug smile on Vanessa's face. "Oh, come on," Vanessa had said, sprawled across the sofa. "You really think Dad's doing this for himself? He's saving you, Elena. You're too emotional to handle responsibility." Elena had tried to fight. She'd shouted, cried, begged. None of it mattered. They already had the papers, the lawyers, the signatures. She remembered her uncle's cold words that night. "You can stay here if you behave, otherwise you can leave. Your parents wanted peace, not drama." She stayed, for a while, until the whispers began, until Vanessa told the staff to stop serving her meals, until she overheard her uncle telling a guest, "She's unstable, poor thing. We're just trying to help her." And when Elena confronted them, when she dared to defend herself, Vanessa had smirked and said those words she would never forget, "Then leave. No one wants you here. You're not a Rowan anymore." So she left, with nothing but a duffel bag, a phone that barely worked, and a wallet holding a few crumpled bills. The memory burned even now, years later. Elena could still feel the icy wind of that night as she wandered the city with no place to go. She ended up at a cheap hostel near the docks, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. The air inside smelled of salt and rust. She cried quietly in her bunk that night, the sound swallowed by the hum of distant traffic. That was the night she decided something. She wouldn't beg, she wouldn't crawl, she would rise, silently. And she did. Her first job was as a waitress at a seaside cafe. The shifts were long, the tips small, but the owner, a kind old woman named Mara, treated her with respect. For the first time in months, someone saw her as a person, not as a problem. Mara used to say, "Sometimes life breaks you so you can rebuild yourself right." Elena rebuilt herself in secret. At night, after her shift, she studied business courses online. She learned about finance, design, and startups. She watched other people's mistakes, memorized their lessons, and dreamed of her comeback. She still had her father's old laptop, slow, cracked, but full of his notes and business ideas. That's where Rowan Innovations was born, a name that carried pain and promise. She started with freelance design work, then came small contracts, then a client overseas who saw her potential. Within 3 years, she had built something solid, real, and by the 5th year, Rowan Innovations became one of the fastest-growing luxury interior design firms in the region. Her name appeared in magazines. Just E. Rowan. No one connected her to the disgraced girl who had once been thrown out of the penthouse. Even her relatives had no clue. They still mocked her name at dinner parties, calling her the ghost cousin who probably married a janitor. They didn't know the ghost had built an empire. Now, standing in the penthouse again, Elena smiled faintly at the thought. Her revenge hadn't been plotted in hatred. It had been built in patience. Everything she'd done, every hour, every sleepless night, had led to this moment. Buying back the penthouse wasn't about showing off. It was about balance, about closure. She opened the glass door to the balcony, stepping out into the cold night air. The city stretched before her, endless, alive. From here, the world looked different. From here, she no longer felt small. The wind brushed her hair, and for a moment, she closed her eyes. She could almost hear her father's voice again, gentle and firm. "Never let them see you break, Elena. They only win when you surrender." She smiled through the tears that slipped down her cheeks. "I didn't break, Dad," she whispered. "I just bent until I learned how to stand again." Inside, her phone buzzed on the table. A message from her assistant flashed on the screen. "Property transfer complete. Title under Rowan Innovations, sole owner Elena Rowan." She read it twice, then set the phone down and exhaled. It was done. Truly done. But as she looked out at the lights below, another memory rose. Vanessa's laughter echoing through the years, calling her mold. Elena chuckled softly to herself. Mold. The word didn't sting anymore. Mold grows back, mold survives. Mold takes root even in the darkest corners, and never dies. And tomorrow, when her cousin realized that the penthouse wasn't hers anymore, when she discovered the company she'd mocked now owned everything her father controlled, that would be the day mold took its final shape. Elena poured herself a glass of wine and leaned against the window, watching the city pulse below her. The reflection of her face stared back at her, calm, sharp, unbroken. She whispered to her reflection, "They thought they buried me. They didn't know I was a seed." The night outside glowed brighter, as if agreeing with her. Tomorrow would be the beginning of her quiet, poetic revenge. And this time, she wasn't the girl they threw out. She was the woman they would never see coming. Morning sunlight spilled through the penthouse windows, scattering across the glass tables and polished marble like golden fire. Elena sat at the breakfast counter, calm and collected, a steaming cup of coffee in her hand. It was the kind of morning she once dreamed about. Peaceful, quiet, hers. The sound of distant traffic rose from the city below, but above it all, Elena heard only the hum of her thoughts. The house felt different now. The air was lighter, cleaner, as though even the walls had sighed in relief after years of being suffocated by lies. Her phone buzzed beside her. A message flashed from her lawyer. "The news broke this morning. Social media is exploding. Everyone knows." Elena smiled faintly. She didn't need to check. She could imagine it. By now, the gossip sites and high society pages were already ablaze with the scandal. Vanessa Rowan escorted out of Penthouse by security. Ownership belongs to cousin she once banished. She pictured Vanessa's face when she'd wake up to that headline, Rage, disbelief, humiliation. The coffee tasted sweeter than usual. A sharp knock echoed from the front door. Once, twice, then a furious pounding. Elena didn't even flinch. She placed the cup down gently, smoothed her robe, and walked to the door. When she opened it, Vanessa stood there. Hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, face blotchy with anger. She was still wearing last night's clothes, her heels uneven, her expression wild. "How dare you!" she spat, storming in without permission. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Elena closed the door quietly. "I do." Vanessa spun around, her voice cracking. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. They're calling me a squatter on the news. My friends won't even pick up the phone." Elena walked past her, unbothered. "You shouldn't believe everything you read online." "Don't mock me!" Vanessa screamed. "You set this up. You waited for years just to embarrass us. You could have told us you were back." Elena turned, her eyes sharp and steady. "And you would have done what? Welcomed me with open arms?" Vanessa froze. "Let's not pretend," Elena continued, her tone calm but edged with quiet steel. "You didn't want me here when I had nothing. You didn't even let me stay to grieve my parents. You called me names. You told everyone I was unstable." "That was years ago," Vanessa snapped. "We were just kids." "No." Elena's voice cut through the air. "You were cruel. There's a difference." Vanessa's lips trembled. "You think money makes you better now?" Elena tilted her head. "No, it just makes me equal." Vanessa's gaze darted around the room. The new furniture, the art, the faint scent of fresh lilies in the vase by the piano. Her eyes caught the stack of documents on the table, the official property transfer papers sealed in gold. She grabbed one, scanning it frantically. "This is fake. It has to be. You forged this." Elena smiled faintly. "You think I'd risk a felony to impress you?" "Then how?" Vanessa demanded. "How could you afford this? You had nothing." "Exactly." Elena's tone was serene. "And when you have nothing, you learn how to build everything." She walked over to the grand window, the skyline glowing behind her like a crown of fire. "Rowan Innovations. The design firm your father mocked. The one you said would fail because I wasn't smart enough. I own it. I built it. And I bought this penthouse through it, legally, cleanly, and completely." Vanessa's face drained of color. Elena met her cousin's gaze, her expression unreadable. "You spent years living off my parents' legacy. I spent years earning my own." Vanessa's voice faltered. "You planned this all along." Elena's eyes softened just slightly. "No, I planned to move on. But life brought me back here. Maybe fate wanted to see if I'd finally learned when to stop begging for love from people who never deserved it." Vanessa's lips quivered, but her pride flared one last time. "You're just like us, Elena, pretending to be better, but deep down you love seeing us fall." Elena's gaze was cold and quiet. "No, I just love balance." Suddenly the elevator chimed. Both women turned as the doors opened, and Harold Rowan stepped out. His face was gray with exhaustion. He looked smaller than Elena remembered, his confidence gone, replaced by something hollow. "Elena?" he said, his voice heavy. "Can we talk?" Vanessa rushed to him. "Dad, she tricked us. You have to fix this." Harold sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "It's over, Vanessa." "What do you mean over?" He turned to Elena, guilt in his eyes. "I've seen the papers. It's all legal, every part of it. You played your cards well." "I didn't play, Uncle," Elena replied evenly. "I just stopped losing." He lowered his head. "You could have come to me. I would have helped you." She let out a humorless laugh. "Helped me?" "Like you did when you took everything that belonged to my parents. You didn't just steal money, you stole years. You made me feel like a stranger in my own home." Harold opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Vanessa's tears fell silently now, streaking her perfectly painted face. "So what now?" she whispered. "You'll just throw us out? Leave us with nothing?" Elena's expression softened, but only slightly. "You're not leaving with nothing. You're leaving with exactly what you gave me, silence and a door closing behind you." Vanessa let out a broken laugh, half sob, half scream. "You'll regret this. You think revenge will make you happy?" It won't. Elena took a slow step toward her, eyes steady. I don't need revenge to be happy. I just needed peace. And peace starts with distance. The elevator doors opened again, waiting. Elena gestured toward them with quiet grace. You should go. Vanessa hesitated, her pride shattering piece by piece. Harold put a hand on her shoulder, guiding her forward. Neither looked back as they stepped inside. When the doors slid shut, the echo of their departure lingered in the air like a sigh. Elena stood alone in the silence that followed, the sunlight catching her face. No triumph, no gloating, just a stillness that felt right. Her phone buzzed again. Messages, calls, notifications flooding in. Her company's stock had risen overnight. Investors were praising her bold acquisition. Journalists wanted statements. But Elena didn't move to answer. She walked to the piano instead, pressing one key softly. A note rang out, pure, delicate, beautiful. Her mother's favorite tune came to mind, and she smiled faintly. We're finally home, she whispered. The city stretched before her like an empire rebuilt from ashes, and somewhere, deep in her chest, the last ache of the past began to fade. The penthouse was quiet again. Too quiet. Elena stood by the window, her reflection glowing against the glass. The city stretched below her, endless veins of golden light, pulsing with life. The same city that once swallowed her whole was now at her feet. It had been 3 months since that morning. 3 months since Vanessa and Harold walked out for the last time. 3 months since Elena took back everything that was stolen, not through anger, but through persistence. And yet, as the days turned into nights, and nights into quiet dawns, Elena discovered that revenge wasn't what she imagined. It wasn't loud. It didn't taste sweet. It was still, like the silence after a storm when everything is finally clean. The penthouse no longer looked the same. Gone were the sterile white walls and the shallow gold decorations that Vanessa adored. In their place were soft cream tones, oak wood, and warmth. The rooms smelled of fresh lilies, her mother's favorite flower. Every detail mattered. Every inch she restored felt like reclaiming a heartbeat. She'd replaced the family portrait above the fireplace too, the one Vanessa had mutilated years ago. In its place now hung a painting of her parents, recreated from memory by one of her company's artists. Her father's calm smile, her mother's gentle eyes, the family she lost but never truly left behind. Sometimes Elena would catch herself pausing before that portrait, whispering softly, I made it, Dad. Mom. I made it back home. The world outside still talked about her. The tabloids called her the Phoenix of Park Avenue. Business articles labeled her the woman who turned humiliation into empire. Investors called her story inspirational, but none of them knew the truth. Her rise wasn't built on revenge. It was built on survival. Vanessa and Harold's downfall had been quiet but complete. Their accounts were frozen after a financial audit uncovered Harold's mismanagement of Elena's inheritance years ago. He was ordered to repay every cent with interest. Their circle of so-called friends evaporated overnight. Vanessa had tried to make a public apology once, through a trembling interview claiming misunderstanding and family miscommunication. But the world had already moved on. No one believed her anymore. No one pitied her. Elena didn't watch the full interview. She didn't need to. Some things didn't need closure, just distance. One evening, as Elena was reviewing design sketches for her company's newest luxury project, the concierge called upstairs. Miss Rowan? The voice said. There's someone here asking to see you. She says she's family. Elena paused, pen hovering over the paper. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, send her up. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Vanessa stepped out, thinner, paler, her once perfect hair unkempt, her eyes hollow. She looked nothing like the woman who once mocked others from marble balconies. Elena didn't stand. She simply gestured toward the opposite chair. Sit. Vanessa hesitated before obeying. She clasped her trembling hands together. I didn't come to fight. I know, Elena said. Vanessa's eyes glistened with tears. I came to apologize. I know it's too late, but I need to say it anyway. Elena's expression didn't change. Go on. Vanessa's voice cracked. We were cruel. We were jealous. You had everything, not money, not power, but love. Your parents loved you. Ours tolerated us. I hated you for that. And when they died, I thought, if I could take your place, maybe I'd finally matter. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But all I did was destroy myself. Elena sat silently, letting her words hang in the air. After a moment, she said quietly, "You hurt me, Vanessa, deeply. You made me question everything I was, but I learned something from you." Vanessa looked up, confused. "What could you have possibly learned from me?" Elena's lips curved into a faint, almost sad smile. How to grow in darkness. Vanessa stared at her, and in that moment she understood. The mold insult that she'd once thrown so carelessly had become Elena's shield, her strength. "I won't ask you to forgive me," Vanessa whispered. "I don't deserve it." Elena nodded once. "No, you don't." Vanessa stood, wiping her tears. "But thank you for listening." Elena rose too, walking her to the elevator. As the doors opened, she said softly, "You called me mold once." Vanessa froze. Elena's voice was calm, almost tender. "You were right. Mold survives everything, even rot." Vanessa's lips trembled, but she didn't respond. The doors closed quietly, leaving only silence behind. That night, Elena poured herself a glass of red wine and stepped onto the balcony. The air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of the city that never truly slept. Below, the lights looked like fallen stars. Above, the sky was an ocean of darkness, vast, endless, forgiving. She thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the pain, the hunger to prove herself, the slow, patient climb back to the top. And for the first time she realized something simple and profound. She wasn't living to prove anything anymore. She'd already won the moment she stopped needing their approval. She'd already won the day she chose peace over revenge. Elena looked at her reflection in the glass, her eyes steady, her expression soft. "I survived you," she whispered, "and I survived myself." The wind tugged at her hair. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled softly, not threatening but cleansing, like the world resetting. She smiled. It wasn't triumph. It was peace. The next morning, sunlight filled the penthouse again. Elena placed fresh lilies in a vase by the piano, opened the curtains wide, and played the tune her mother loved. The notes filled the air like gentle forgiveness, reaching corners even pain had once lived in. Her company's phone buzzed on the counter. Another major deal, another success. But she didn't rush to answer. She took her time, letting the music linger. Because now, she wasn't chasing anything. She was home. And home wasn't walls or furniture or wealth. It was this. The stillness, the safety, the quiet knowing that no matter who tried to destroy her, she would always rise again. She was, after all, the mold that stayed.